I went to the Middle East and I didn't tell my mom. So I had a layover in India because I had taken an unplanned flight to Abu Dhabi from Singapore. On the plane, I sat next to this really cool guy I had a good conversation with, and the girl sitting next to me offered me some of her sandwich. Everyone was just so welcoming. But I got to Abu Dhabi pretty late at night, and I noticed it was very warm and humid, especially considering it was nighttime. But I actually really like that kind of weather. They don't have things like Uber there, but they do have cabs. And I didn't have any of the local currency there, so I just asked if they take credit card in the cab, and they said yeah. So I hopped in the cab, got a ride to the hotel, swiped the card, and we were good. But that came to bite me a little later, because the next day, since I hadn't got any cash, I was going to take a cab to try and go get some currency. Well, the card swiper in the cab was busted, so I had to pay in cash that I didn't have. So while the meter was still ticking, the driver took me to a mall where there would be something like a Western Union or some kind of ATM. But after that, hopped on the public bus from Abu Dhabi to Dubai. The drive was very pretty. I loved the architecture along the highway. So the first thing I did when I got to Dubai was go to the Museum of the Future, which was recommended to me by the guy from Bangladesh that I had met in the Chennai airport in India. And this was an absolutely gorgeous museum. The architecture was incredible. It was real sciencey, and that's something I'm super into. There was this one room that had all these different species in these little containers, and every container had a different organism model in it. And then there was a section here that was very sensory. So sound, touch. There was this cool projector that as you walked, it would kind of move lights around your feet. And then this was kind of a meditation room. And I thought this was so cool because this thing in the middle had a pool of water on the top and little speakers, and you would hear the sound, but then you'd also have light coming through the water on this little platform, and the speakers were making these sound waves through the water so you could visualize what you were hearing. It was super cool. But after the museum, I went walking around, explored, and Dubai has some absolutely gorgeous architecture. Nice art installations that you can see just walking around. Here you can see the Museum of the Future in the back. If you just wander around, you're gonna see cool stuff everywhere. There's a peacock roaming the streets. And it was real interesting because you could hear, as you were walking by, the evening prayers from the mosques. And I kept seeing this person, this man. There was pictures of him everywhere. And I didn't know who he was. So I ended up looking him up, and he was Sheikh Al Zayed, who was the first president of the Emirates and had a big role in turning it into what it is today. This was an interesting sign I took a picture of. The grocery stores are stocked. Something I thought was real interesting, because you don't really see that here in the US, was wipes for burqas. And this was a neat area to walk around. That kind of a market and traditional clothing and items that you could get. They had a Supreme store there. I finally got to see one of those trick ice cream guys in person. And it was real pretty because you could see the lights of Dubai reflected on the water here. And I found this neat little alleyway with a bunch of wares for sale on the sides. But it was getting late, so I decided to make my way back to the bus station, where I had a little bit of trouble figuring out how to use this machine to reload the card, because there's this little thing called a null card. Let me go find it. You get this thing when you use the bus called a null card. The way it works is you reload it and you tap it when you get on the bus, tap it when you get off the bus. The next day, I went to the Grand Mosque in Abu Dhabi, and it was an absolutely stunning experience. I would highly recommend it to anyone that goes to the Emirates. The inside was gorgeous, the landscaping outside was awesome, but it was a brief stop in the Emirates, so the next day I hopped on the plane and was off to my next destination.